The past few months of Marvel Comics have been a little bit light on content, but thankfully the publisher just released their brand new slate of solicitations advertising the bulk of their product being released over in June. And we've got so many releases over for the House of Ideas that I'm so thrilled to talk about, including the end of a new series, the beginning of a couple mini-series, and plus a brand new project from one of my favorite creators in comics period, Jonathan Hickman. My name is Ariko Braddock, and today, let's go ahead and dive deep into Marvel Comics June titles. But before we get deeper into the video, I want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button if you enjoy our content. And there were so many releases this month that I actually wanted to go ahead and switch things up and deliver not 5, but 10 of my most anticipated titles. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick things off over with Ultimate Invasion #1. This one is written by Jonathan Hickman. We have art and cover over from Bryan Hitch. And I want to read off Marvel's solicitation text for this issue. The transformation of the Marvel Universe begins. Superstar creators Jonathan Hickman and Bryan Hitch team up. The Illuminati must form once again to stop the Maker from his plans to destroy or perhaps rebuild the universe, with Miles Morales at the center of it all. Bryan's work on the Ultimates helped redefine superhero comics for the 2000s. Wait until you see what he and Jonathan have in store for this decade, including new data pages by Jonathan Hickman, plus exclusive behind-the-scenes material on the world building that has gone into this project. There are so many things about this story that I'm incredibly excited about, even independent from the very fascinating writing over from Jonathan Hickman, who I have personally really appreciated in the past few years due to all his work with kind of rebooting the X-Men towards the Krakoa franchise. In addition to this story kind of bringing back some interesting aspects of the Marvel Universe, it's also pulling on some plot threads over from Jonathan Hickman's Avengers run, culminating in that big kind of Secret Wars event that I also really enjoyed. There are so many kind of bells and whistles that I learned about in this solicit too, like the kind of reformation of the Illuminati, as well as some data pages and world building. Plus, I have really enjoyed what Jonathan Hickman, and not only Jonathan Hickman, but what Bryan Hitch has done over with the Ultimates as well. I think Hitch has really grown as an artist, and I'm really curious to see how his kind of new kind of style is going to be adapted over to the Ultimates. This is a 4-issue miniseries coming in at $8.99, but luckily we're being treated to 56 pages. Really looking forward to this title and very happy to see Jonathan Hickman embarking on a new and wildly different project over from the X-Men titles. And let's go ahead and talk about my #2 comic. This is The Incredible Hulk #1, written by Phillip Kennedy Johnson with art and cover from Nic Klein. The Age of Monsters has begun as an enraged Hulk tries to take control of Bruce Banner's body permanently. A mysterious immortal turns every monster in the Marvel Universe against Banner in an attempt to free their creator, the primordial mother of horrors. With the help of an unlikely new friend, Banner and Hulk must try to stop the world from getting plunged into darkness in this terrifying new series. Phillip Kennedy Johnson is a creator who has done incredible work over with Superman on Action Comics. And while sort of at a glance, I think you might be wondering how a Superman writer would kind of transfer over to the Incredible Hulk, I think if you zoom out a little bit and look at Phillip Kennedy Johnson's work on sort of the Last God Project, or with how the Warworld saga brought Superman into a kind of high stakes, high octane, and really violent environment, you can sort of get the idea of where he's taking the Hulk property next. I really, really love Nic Klein as an artist and think he's lent some really great work over to the Marvel Universe for characters like Thor. I've been waiting for Klein to get a breakout book, and I'm really hoping that the Incredible Hulk series from Marvel is going to be the one to do it. And let's go ahead and talk about our next comic book. This is the brand new volume of Black Panther. Black Panther #1 is written by Eve L. Ewing with art from Chris Allen, featuring this cover over from Taurin Clarke. A king without a crown, banished from the throne and a fugitive in his own homelands, T'Challa still can't leave Wakanda without its sworn protector. A king without a crown. He finds new purpose lurking the streets and shadows of the Wakandan city that bears his father's name. Burnin' T'Chaka. New direction, new villains, new creative team, getting on the ground floor of Marvel's next smash hit. So I have to say, John Ridley's Black Panther run left T'Challa in a very kind of vulnerable place, and essentially he's sort of been exiled over from, his homeland. So catching up with a kind of like fugitive T'Challa with a brand new costume and kind of outlook seems like it's going to be really interesting. I know kind of Eve Ewing is a bit of a breakout writer for Marvel, so really interested to see what Eve brings to the title, and very excited to see Marvel kind of, following up a status quo from a different creative team. And I want to see that care and attention brought into kind of the Black Panther franchise as a whole moving forward. Let's go ahead and talk about the next title. This is Loki #1, written by Dan Waters with art from German Peralta and a gorgeous cover over from Dustin Nguyen. Loki saves the Marvel Universe? He may be the benevolent god of stories now, but it's Loki's past as the god of lies returns to haunt him when ancient, powerful weapons he once built end up scattered across the 10 realms. Loki must track down these weapons before they fall into the wrong hands and bring about Ragnarok. Surprising guest stars, exciting new characters, and startling twists await in this all-new miniseries by rising stars Dan Waters and German Peralta. So in terms of this new Loki miniseries, the thing that I am most excited about here absolutely has to be this creative team. Dan Waters delivered such incredible writing in the Sword of Azrael comic book series. And Loki is a very, I think, kind of unique character that takes a very particular perspective and kind of getting somebody a little bit off the beaten path who's great with some of those kind of minor characters. Really, I think, is going to kind of bring out a new edge to Loki in the Marvel Universe. Plus, artist German Peralta uses this kind of curved line in his comics that's just so expressive and off the wall and always tends to capture my imagination. I'm really excited about this Loki miniseries, and I think it could be a really great upcoming comic over from Marvel. Let's talk about the end of a title wrapping up in June with a very, very long run. This is Captain Marvel #50, written by Kelly Thompson, featuring art from Javier Pina and more. And this gorgeous cover is over from Carmen Carnero. Final issue of Kelly Thompson's historic run over with Captain Marvel. It's been an impossible journey, one that's taken Carol Danvers across time and space and pitted her against enemies new and old. Superstar writer Kelly Thompson has run Marvel's premier heroine through the gauntlet, and now the boss of space burns brighter than ever. No one believed she would get this far, but that's the power of Captain Marvel and her Carol core. They will never give up. Higher, further, faster to the very end. Do not miss this capstone to a record-breaking run as Thompson puts her final fingerprints on Earth's mightiest hero. So I want to take a step back and be a little bit honest. I have not been able to kind of check out this entire run, but I have been taking a look at it recently as it's kind of crossed over with the X-Men and brought out some of the Brood characters. I've really been impressed with the way Kelly Thompson has written the X-Men characters as well as Captain Marvel herself, and I will be kind of taking a look at this final issue, and we'll be curious to see where we're going to see Kelly Thompson next. Artist Javier Pina is such a great artist. I've really enjoyed Pina's work on titles like Swamp Thing, and we'll definitely be taking a look at what the art in this issue looks like. Also, the artwork over from Carmen Carnero on this cover is incredible. There's just so much detail in the line that Carmen Carnero uses on the cover. Really enjoy seeing her art. And let's go ahead and talk about the beginnings of the Contest of Chaos storyline over in Scarlet Witch Annual #1. This one is written by Steve Orlando with artwork from Carlos Nieto and a cover from Russell Dauterman. Contest of Chaos Prelude. When a newly rejuvenated Agatha Harkness learns of the Scarlet Witch's recent absorption of Chthon, she decides to educate her former student on the dangers of such an endeavor. But Wanda is not the meek pupil she once was, and Agatha's intentions are not so straightforward. This epic clash between Marvel's most powerful witches sets off a chain reaction that will affect the course of Marvel's summer. I'm very excited for Contest of Chaos. I've really been enjoying what Steve Orlando has kind of been delivering over in the main Scarlet Witch title. It's been a sort of casual and deep dive into Wanda's family tree, as we've been getting kind of the appearance of all these magic characters throughout the Marvel Universe who have been shopping at Wanda Maximoff's Emporium. And there's a last door inside the Emporium where some of the magic characters come out with problems that Wanda and her allies have to solve throughout the issue. Contest of Chaos looks to bring in a ton of Marvel characters kind of throughout the Marvel Universe outside of, Scarlet Witch. So very curious to see kind of how this is going to unfold and to watch a little bit more Agatha Harkness over in kind of the main Marvel Universe. I think this is pulling on some really interesting threads over at Marvel, and I'm very excited to see what Steve Orlando is going to bring in this Scarlet Witch story. And now we have to go ahead and take a diversion into the X-Men's Before the Fall one-shot, starting with X-Men Before the Fall Heralds of Apocalypse #1. This one is written by Al Ewing, featuring art from Luca Pizzeri and a cover that we're taking a look at over from the excellent Pepe Larraz. The origin of Aurico. In ancient days, Genesis turned back the hordes of Amenth. In ancient days, Genesis forced annihilation into a parley. What words were spoken in her mind? Now finally, Apocalypse will know, and the echoes of those words might destroy him, and Aurico with him. So I'm excited for this Heralds of Apocalypse one-shot. I really do think so because of some of the writing over from Al Ewing in the Marvel Universe. Al Ewing feels like he's really kind of come into his own, fleshing out, I would say, a lot of the backstories and how it relates to kind of the overall Marvel Universe. We've really seen Al Ewing dive in deep with kind of Storm in X-Men Red, and I'm curious to see if kind of any of those plot threads are going to weave back into this one shot. And I'm very excited for all of these kind of X-Men Before the Fall books. I think the idea of giving Al Ewing this sort of one-shot kind of connected to this event and fleshing out what Apocalypse has been up to while kind of keeping him on really important titles like X-Men Red in the month of June is a great way for Marvel to kind of expand and maybe give some additional context to this event before it happens in the first place. And we have another X-Men Before the Fall one-shot. This is X-Men Before the Fall Mutant First Strike #1. This one is written over from Steve Orlando with art by Valentina Pinti and a cover that we're taking a look at right now from David Baldion. Krakoa strikes. Ever since mutants declared themselves humanity's new god, certain circles have been waiting for the other shoe to drop. The Wrath. When a small New England town is hit by a devastating mutant attack, it seems the Wrath is here, but all isn't as it appears, and Krakoa doesn't hesitate to save lives. So it's time for Bishop to lead Krakoa's biggest rescue effort yet. So I think in terms of this series, I'm very curious to see what kind of content Steve Orlando can deliver in the X-Men universe outside of what he's been delivering in Marauders, as recent issues of kind of that series from Orlando haven't quite been connecting with me like I want them to. But let me tell you, I really have enjoyed some of Steve Orlando's work in the past. I love this cover over from David Baldion as well. And in addition, the solicit is kind of referencing all these individual locations. That's really interesting. I wonder kind of how much of Krakoa is going to be explored in this X-Men event. Plus, giving Bishop a little bit of a more agency potentially in the X-Men's Fall of X event is a sort of intriguing idea that I hope is really kind of followed up on in the series proper. And now let's go ahead and take a look at Captain America Cold War Omega #1. This one is written by Colin Kelly, Jackson Lansing, and Tochi Onyebuchi with art from Carlos Magno and a cover from Patrick Gleason. This is the finale of Captain America's Cold War crossover, where we're seeing Dimension Z kind of ensnare the Marvel Universe. White Wolf has unleashed an army of Dimension Z monsters upon our world as a declaration of global war, and Team Cap's only hope to stop it is to take him down for good. Meanwhile, Bucky Barnes deploys his final chess piece, Ian Rogers himself, to turn the situation in his favor. Lifelong friends battle alongside mortal enemies and change the trajectory of their lives in the stunning conclusion. I'm very interested to kind of see where this Captain America Cold War event goes. I have to say, in terms of Captain America, it'd be really great if we got some additional kind of status quo shifts and changes. And I'm really hoping that kind of Colin Kelly, Jackson Lansing, and Tochi Onyebuchi will leave their mark on the franchise and maybe kind of shake something up in this. I would love to see kind of the expansion of Dimension Z in the Marvel Universe. I like the idea of White Wolf as well. And so many concepts about this story are intriguing. And to go ahead and wrap things up, let's take a look at X-Men #23. This is from Jerry Dugan, featuring art and cover over from Joshua Cassara. The Sentinels get an upgrade. Anti-mutant fantasist Fei Long has taken control of Tony Stark's businesses and devoted Iron Man's technology towards the next generation of Sentinels. These Stark Sentinels are as hard to beat as old Shellhead himself and are fully devoted to crushing the X-Men. One thing that I'm super excited about in terms of these X-Men comics is how Iron Man is sort of ushering the Marvel Universe into a Fall of X. I always love it how the kind of X-Men titles have sister books where they kind of weave them into the continuity. We saw Marvel do this previously in the pages of The Amazing Spider-Man as Peter kind of crashed the Hellfire Gala. But in terms of Iron Man, it seems like some of the villains in the X-Men's universe are repurposing Tony Stark's technology to kind of wield it against him in this context. So very curious to see how this goes. I think it's so cool that Jerry Dugan is kind of setting up this X-Men crossover in his own Iron Man book and in the main X-Men kind of base series. I always love it when two titles intersect, and I think this will be a really fascinating way to see X-Men kind of pull two various status quos together across their separate books. So those were some of my thoughts over on Marvel's June solicitations. They honestly have so many comics going on, in the month of June. I can't believe how many titles there are, to just be completely honest. But it seems like just in terms of this X-Men content alone, we're going to have a ton of fantastic books to read. I want to know from you, which of these titles are you most excited to read? Did I leave out your favorite book from Marvel's June solicits? Well, I want to thank you guys so much for coming to check out the video today, and we'll be back in the month of June to review all these books and to continue previewing Marvel solicits. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you soon.